Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Content and Consequences. This is your host, Jordan Elizabeth Gelber, and I'm here with...
Hi, guys. It's Victoria Cherie Bennett. Welcome back to the podcast.
Yes, welcome back to Content and Consequences, a podcast that focuses on creators who blur the lines between producer, writer, director, and actor. Featuring live readings of pilot extracts and interviews with successful creatives, this podcast explores the process and aftermath of developing content.
Content and Consequences is part of Rogue Matter, a new digital content platform providing programming and entertainment that shatters boundaries and colors outside the lines. Join the movement. Go Rogue. RogueMatter.com.
Today we have a wonderful guest, one of our good friends and fellow colleagues. We both created some great content with her, but the lovely Adrienne Lovette. Welcome to the podcast.
Yay! Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So Adrienne, I mean, we know you, so we're really lucky, but everyone at home who hasn't heard of your lovely name before, you've been in so many projects and you're also a female producer and director. Please tell everybody a little bit.
And writer.
And writer, sorry, I'm a horrible person.
She sometimes holds sound mics too.
Yeah, you're just what's a good thing?
She also does editing.
What else does she do? Just list them. Let's see what we can get before she says it.
She also can sing.
Oh, yes, she can.
She can sing.
Because 2 weeks later, you're sleeping over nightly.
Well, she didn't sing in that music video. She was just she was
the Mariah Carey.
That was backup. Yeah, lip sync backup.
Well, we'll put some source material for everyone being like, what are they talking about? So let's introduce her, the lovely Adrienne Lovette. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much.
Twice. Guys, I'm only on 2 cups of coffee and no food really. So everybody, Adrienne is what we say, a Jane of all trades. Is that that's the proper word? Oh, I say Jack of all trades, but I feel like we have to be.
There's Jacqueline's.
You're Jacqueline. You're a Jackie O of all trades.
Nice. I'll take it.
So Adrienne, please tell everybody who you are and all the wonderful things that you do.
Well, you guys made me sound really awesome. I don't think I'm that awesome, but my name is Adrienne Lovette, as you said, and I'm a director, filmmaker, writer, producer, as you said. I'm also an actor, so lately I've been acting more so in TV and film-related projects. I come from a theater background, but my focus since about 2011, I've been focusing on the majority of my career on TV and film. And so that's kind of where I've, went to, and even as a director, because I came from theater as well as a director. And so, I've been directing a lot of indie projects lately, and it's been good.
Yeah, I mean, I am so inspired by you, Adrienne. Every time I look at your social or hear it to the grapevine, you're always either making something or you're in something or you're searching for something else to create and get out there. I think you're in a film festival right now, one of your films?
Yes. Well, thank you for saying that. That's so nice of you.
I'm just your hype woman today. Like me and Victoria, we got it down. We're just your hype woman today.
I need that. I need that, especially nowadays where nothing is really happening that much. I appreciate that hype because sometimes you're just like, nothing is happening. And I think everyone has been going through that in different spurts. But what was your question? I'm sorry.
No, I was saying, currently, right now we're all in the breadcrumbs of 2020 going into, is 2021 going to be the sequel of 2020? But you've had a very interesting year, to say the least, aside from everything else that's going on, but you've been actively creating content all through quarantine. And right now, at least one of your projects I know is in a festival.
Yes. Yeah, The Dark Room, which is a horror short film I directed, that is going around festivals right now. And there actually is another project I directed. It's a comedy short called The Alliance, and that's also going into festivals right now. And we just started releasing some of our older stuff, some of our older shorts, and even we're thinking of releasing one of our features onto just accessible platforms like YouTube and Vimeo, because we had them in certain contracts that didn't allow us to put it out there, but now all of a sudden we're able to. So we've been doing that, and it's actually been getting a lot of good attention. We just released A Hidden Daylight, which is another horror short that I directed, and that won a few awards, went through the festival circuit, got distribution, and we put it on YouTube, and we just recently put it on YouTube, and it's got like 10,000 hits, which to me is a big deal because
It's a big deal for everybody.
I'm not a YouTuber. Like, I'm not connected to social media in that way. So to get that kind of views, I was like, oh, great. And we released another short, which was like a comedy rom-com kind of cutesy short that we made a few years back. And we're just kind of releasing them out there because we were like, we made these and people should see them. So we'll just put them out there. But yeah, it's been interesting year, to say the least. A lot of the projects that we had thought we were going to do got put on hold because of COVID. And I would say the only thing that we had control over is writing. So I spent a lot of this year writing.
Well, what kind of projects have you been writing?
Well, I co-wrote a pilot of one of the shorts that we just released called Blind Date. So we co-wrote a pilot based off of that short called Blindly. And I co-wrote that with Ella J. New. And she's the one that acts with me in that short. And then I co-wrote a feature drama that we're actually going to shoot in the end of February this year called I'm Okay, We're Okay. And besides that, I've been writing a lot of, starting up new pilot ideas, and I have a few, 2 features that I'm still going through and going back and writing and going back and writing, and it's a process. But I'm glad that we got so much done in the writing realm this year, because it was one of my goals in general to not waste the year away in a sense.
Yeah, that's such a great point. I think, for us, right, we were very passionate about not wasting the year away. And I think, all of us were kind of stuck for a minute being like, oh my gosh, what's going to be, you've been acting consistently. You had Better Call Saul. You did Joker a few years ago. You've been consistently acting. How has the transition been from going to like consistently auditioning and acting? Granted that we know the industry is kind of percolating back up again, but putting that on hold, what were you able to do for yourself, and opportunities were you able to provide for yourself because you're a producer and a content creator as well?
Well, I think, it was a blessing in disguise that I wasn't auditioning and everything like that, because personally, and I guess a lot of people were going through their own kind of emotional trauma, so to speak, during this pandemic. And so I wasn't in the state of mind to be a effective actor, if that makes sense. And it took a while to be an effective creator. It was a few months of getting accustomed to what was happening in the world. And that, I think that's okay, because it wasn't a time to, oh my God, the pandemic is happening, so we're going to be stuck at home, so we should create things. But it's okay if you're not. Not everyone has that ability, nor should you. There was nothing normal about what was going on. So because there was nothing normal about it, don't put the pressure on yourself that you should have made something during that time. If anything, I think a lot of people needed that time to heal and to just find some kind of inner peace and take the time to actually be with family. And, I think as creators, we're always like, go, go, go. We got to create the next thing. We got to keep making things. We got to, climb the ladder on the regular and hustle on the regular. But like I said, casting directors were not on a hustle. Agents were not, everyone was trying to live a life at that time during the pandemic. And it's a pandemic still, but when it first started. And so I didn't put the pressure on myself of, oh, I need to create. It just finally, my brain allowed it to happen. So it took a few months to finally go, okay, now I can concentrate on writing. I can concentrate on, looking at an edit or editing someone else's project or whatever it was. And my acting, I had a few auditions. I was so shocked that I had any auditions whatsoever because of the time. But I took the year in a way of healing and, trying to do some things that I didn't normally had time to do.
Awesome. It's just great to hear someone say, I took the time to really cultivate a new talent. I took the time to discover other ways I could be affecting people with art, with storytelling, with content creation. Content creation is a loose term. I know it's like a buzz term. You have the social media gurus making the content creation, or the TikTokers who I can't even keep up with the TikTok don't stoppers. But
I'm not on TikTok.
Definitely
too much for me.
It's way too much for me. I do not consume that much sugar at a point in time to have the energy to just be making lots of videos. But I think one thing's for sure, that being a creator and a producer and someone who not only is a part of telling the story, but brings the story together and all the elements together. Because as a director, as a writer, as a producer, wearing many hats as you do, as we do,
right.
It's about coming for the common goal of using whatever form of content or medium to create change. How do you feel that in today's times and current climate, why do you feel that content creation has the power to create such change?
Well, it's such a strong media right now. I mean, we've, especially television, I feel like there's so many platforms to watch content or films or anything on at the moment, and not only TV platforms, but on your phone apps, like YouTube, like Facebook even now has their own content that's like Facebook TV shows. I think I wouldn't be surprised if TikTok finally gets their own season of something. It's just, and they probably already have that in the works. Yeah, and it's just I think everyone in some capacity is needing some form of escape, and so that the amount of content that's coming out is mainly because everybody needs some kind of escape from everything that's happening right now. I think that's why it's so important at the moment, and why it's capable of influencing change, and hopefully positive change. I mean, I've seen a lot of TV shows, films that really have been opening up to diversity and showing the underrepresented. And I mean, that was one of the reasons why I was such a big fan of Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, because at the time there wasn't a show where they showed such diverse looking people, and I think that's something that made a big impact for people, and why, besides the amazing writing and acting, why it was became such an important show despite the subject matter, and you're seeing more and more of that, and hopefully that will influence positive change and open people's minds.
Oh, 100%. So I have to, I can't continue this interview without stating the fact that you have been a part of Victoria's show.
Yes, yes, she's been a part of my show. Yeah.
And I think that, to your point of talking about the fact that we have so many platforms now, digital series has become a new normal in terms of content creation, especially now. I mean, we've seen platforms like Quibi, which, RIP Quibi, but Quibi was at the front of making digital series, like web series, digital series, whatever vernacular you want to utilize, are becoming a regular occurrence. And now we have all these different platforms where you can go and you can create something and get it distributed in an expedited fashion. Like even with YouTube, you can make something and put it up there. What do you think has been the best thing about having the ability to create web series or create digital series? Like storytelling through an online medium, has it been different for you, or has it provided you more opportunities? What are positives or negatives that you've found because of digital series?
Well, I would say the positives is the fact that anyone can do it. You know what I mean? And you can do it in all levels. I would, you could shoot a whole thing on your phone, or you can have an actual crew and equipment, and people will still watch it. And, I would guess, to me, the positives is the fact that, again, the underrepresented individuals all of a sudden are in the light, and they get to tell their story and use their voices. And there's some amazing content created from individuals like that. And I love being a part of those kind of things. And I guess the negatives would be, the people that are creating it for, the wrong reasons. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, the digital world, I think being able to tell stories, it's such a masterful thing to be able to tell stories in such a short amount of time. Like, most of the episodes are 5 minutes to maybe 15 minutes long in most web series. And that's a skill, and that's something that to keep an audience interested and into a story, but at the same time, having to just show these characters within that short span of time. I think some people do an amazing job at it, and some people are still learning. But it's definitely, it's not going to go anywhere. I think people are really going to stick with the whole web series world, and of course, why shouldn't they? They're creating content that the networks are not going to.
Adrienne, can I ask a question? Because you're also somebody on top of creating content, writing content, directing content, acting in the content. Because of 2020, you also market and sell your own products too. Because of the current COVID-19 shutdown, have you altered your game plan and your marketing plan, your distribution plan because of that? Like, instead of targeting, say, certain programs, are you going to go to like other programs, like app-friendly programs instead, as like an example?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it, especially the content that we're planning on creating now. It's kind of, you question how you want to advertise it. Do you want to go to festivals, or do you want to just go to straight to distribution? Which is, it sounds terrible, because I love festivals, and I think they're a huge benefit in networking. It's wonderful to see your film on a big screen, et cetera, et cetera. But when it's all online, it's not the same. I mean, truth be told, no matter what, it's never really quite the same, and it's not exactly the same experience. I think the positive is that you get to, anyone can see it, so it's more accessible, but it's still not going to a festival and going to a theater and meeting people at a party after the festival, and the networking that you actually do. And we have done quite a bit of that over the years. So I would say it's just everything has to be slightly altered because of COVID, and again, the plans that we had originally for last year and this year have been different. It really, at the moment, it's more of, let's just make it and then decide from there, because we don't know if it is going to be better. You kind of don't know until you make it. Like, you have ideas of what you want to do, but until you have it edited and done, then you go, okay, how are we going to market this? How is this going to benefit people, et cetera, et cetera? So for me personally, we kind of go step by step. Even though we have plans, we know how it is. You kind of have to adjust. I feel like the indie world is very much like that. It's like you have plans, but something's going to change, and you have to adjust very quickly.
Yeah, I think that's going to be, it's going to be survival of the fittest, I think. And I hate to say it like that, but I think for where we're going, especially at the top. A lot of the projects, big, or like a lot of the films and TV projects are opening and closing. But I think it's going to leave room for a lot more indie projects and unique stories and more diverse stories.
I hope so. And that's what I thought when all the networks and studios were shutting down projects. I was like, oh my gosh, this is the time for independent filmmakers to shine, because we know how to make things for cheap. We know how to make things with a crew of 5 people. We know how to, we're the ones that actually know how to do these things and still make things look good and still have really quality stuff and great actors attached for almost no money. So I was like, they should come to us. They should come to the content creators of the world, the indie people that we are, to continue putting content out there. And I hope it happens. I mean, I don't know. That was my hopeful, wishful thinking.
Oh yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, I think that, we're all part of that. I think we've all gotten our start making, like, being producers, like not only being in it, but making it from the beginning. We've all been in those projects where it's like, mom's cooking everybody dinner.
Yep.
and the producer's holding the boom mic that we made out of like a mic and a broomstick, and we're all tuning on our iPhone with our gimbal for the special iPhone gimbal. Like, we're doing the great projects. I agree. I think it is time for the indie filmmaker to really shine. As a content creator and a writer and all the wonderful things that you do, what inspires you? What kind of stories inspire you?
Gosh, it really is moment to moment. I have a list of film ideas and movie ideas on my phone. It's a ridiculous long list. It's like I write a log line of an idea that I have, and then it's just, I have a ton of log lines. Like, all I do is, log lines are little mini synopsises of different projects, and sometimes I'll go back to it if I feel uninspired. I'll go back to it and be like, okay, well, what inspired me? And I'll see some, and sometimes I'll literally write the thing that I came up with 2 years ago. You know what I mean? And I think honestly everything inspires me. I don't have one specific thing that inspires me. I think when I write something, I do keep certain things in mind of, I want to represent a lot of different types of people and ethnicities and people with disability. And, I try to, and as long as also it's relevant to the story, but I do try and create or write work that, not trying to keep saying underrepresented, but it's kind of what it is. And so I consider myself in that category. So there's not a lot of people that look like me on TV. And also people like me playing lead roles or supporting roles. There isn't a lot of that. So that's something that I keep in mind when I'm writing as well. And I don't write with myself in mind all the time. I actually, more often than not, I'm writing with not myself in mind at all, and no intentions of being in it. But yeah, I mean, it's just the inspiration comes from people, it really does, in a sense, come from, I see this old man walking down the street and all of a sudden I have a whole story for him, so that's kind of where my inspirations come from. It's really from people.
Adrienne, I got to ask, because I feel like this is going to come, we're about to get a whole bunch of these types of stories. Are you inspired at all to create like a quarantine series or films? Because I'm already seeing it. I was like, man, I bet you we're going to get a lot of people that make films and series based around the time we were all in quarantine. about quarantine.
It's funny. Well, it's funny because we wrote the feature that John and I wrote called I'm Okay, We're Okay. We wrote that feature during the time of quarantine, the pandemic, but not about that. So it so happens that these people are in that situation, and that situation push their emotions a bit, but it has nothing to do with it. So we didn't write it we only wrote it because, and during that time, because we knew when we go out and shoot in the world, people are going to be masked. We're not going to hire like extras to like not be masked. And, it's an indie film. So we were like, well, we're going to have to cater to this world a little bit. So we might as well just mention the fact that they're in it. But we never really talk about it except for the beginning. They mention it a tiny bit, and then they get over it, and then you follow their journey. And it has nothing to do with the pandemic, And but in regards to writing something that is about quarantine and about the pandemic, I personally am not going to.
I'm fine with that.
We're okay with that. We're good.
No, I was making a joke. I was like, where is the rom-com about quarantine love?
Yeah.
Like that's coming.
Listen, if people are inspired by it and they write some hilarious stuff or some moving stuff, great, good on them. They're inspired by that. For me, I'm more of, when I see people wearing masks on TV, I'm like, oh, like in a TV show, because there's a lot of TV shows that have adapted to the quarantine pandemic world. So then even their actors are wearing masks, and I'm like, oh man. Yeah. I was like, I kind of wanted to be away from that world. Like, I wanted to see the world back to normal and have that illusion. So to see it when it's in a network show, I'm like, oh, they're really going with this idea of the world right now. And, good on them. I get it. It's a hard decision to make. And I personally, I think I'm going to be fine not making anything about it per se, except for the little bit that we've added in our feature, but not like a whole show about it. But I do think there is going to be quite a bit. I mean, there was, right? Like there already has been. People have been making Zoom shows because of it. So in a way, there has already been that. And throughout the year, which is surprising how quick it turned out to be, where there was a lot of content that catered to that or was inspired by it.
It's a really great transition to talking about Zoom. I think, part of this podcast, we talk about the consequences of making content. It's not just about like, oh, it's a great story, we want to make it, and the stuff that happens when it goes on, but there are unforeseen circumstances. And I think one thing last year, we all worked together on a series that wanted to be out at a certain time for the end of the year. And because of the desire to launch it at a certain date, we were very upfront with the creator of the project saying, hey, if you want to have this happen, you need to modify your project to be on Zoom. And putting it on Zoom, we were able to have you in part of the project.
Right, yeah.
In South Carolina, we were able to have you part of the project, people all over the country. In other projects that you've been a part of that you created last year, what are some consequences or some hiccups that you've come across that you had to modify or change because of the circumstances of last year?
Well, I mean, honestly, we've pushed back almost everything because every script that we had it just didn't work with pandemic life, or, you know what I mean? Like, it just didn't. And we couldn't do, the series that we worked on, it worked on Zoom. It the way he rewrote it or they rewrote it. And I mean, I didn't see the original script, but the way it was done to me worked really well. And the subject matter, it works really well, right? But a lot of our projects, I mean, like I said, we ended up concentrating on our scripts because most of everything was, I mean, there was just no way to make it, under the kind of restraints that we were on. They were all outdoors. Some of them had children in it. Like, there was just no way to make those movies at that time. Now, there's a lot more rules. If you're doing union, there's a lot more rules. I almost feel like 25% of your budget needs to go toward COVID safety. It's hard. It's hard. And then you kind of have to make that decision. Do we make this union or non-union? Because, and then just try to be as safe as possible. I would say I did direct a music video last year in, was it October? Oh, no, September, October, in the fall. And that was a little nerve-wracking because I minimized my crew a whole heap, and it was only one day of shooting, but I had to stress to the artist, hey, don't bring an entourage. Like, we gotta keep this to a minimum. We're in a small space. I don't want anyone catching COVID. Like, everyone's going to be masks except for you. And we altered it to where everyone brought their own food instead of having crafty, like things like that, that you just have to be slightly creative and very, very mindful of people's safety. But there's always a way. We're creators, so we're used to creating creative ideas to make something. Like, it's not going to stop us by any means. It's just we got to be smart about it.
100%. One of the things you said a little bit earlier inspired me of the first episode we did of this podcast. We were discussing why the two of us do what we do, and a big kind of like motivation for creating projects is the fact that we didn't see a lot of women like us on television. We didn't see a lot of stories being told. And I think, you're such an inspiration and a pioneer in that regard. I think it's really, one thing that's really been kind of illuminated over the last year while everything's been on pause is how much there's been a definite lacking of the everyday person, the normal people, and that we see. What other things have you found that you wish would change, that you think if more independent people came up and started talking about storytelling, or were other options you wish you could provide that you can do with, I hope this is making sense, but what opportunities have you been able to provide yourself and your surrounding peers through content creation because of the frustrations you were feeling about the industry as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, like we said earlier, I don't see, it's a little bit better now, obviously. I think Orange is the New Black was the last TV show where I saw more people like me. Now, was I happy that everyone was in prison who looked like me? Not exactly, but it was here's a whole bunch of ethnic women of all shapes and sizes, heading a show, and it's all about them. Now, the sad part is that after that was done, I haven't seen a show like that since, and with that kind of diversity, because we have shows that are almost one ethnicity, mm-hmm. and there's a lot more of that, but there isn't a lot of shows where there's mixed ethnicities. You know what I mean? And I'm more about the mixed ethnicity kind of shows or films. Like, I like bringing everybody together because that's how I grew up. I grew up with tons of friends from all around the world. So for me, I still feel like there's a lack of representation in regards to creating something where you see so many diverse people together, but I mean, that's kind of what I try to do. And whenever I do put myself in a project, one, it's because I, as an actor, feel like I need to portray that character. Two, it's because I feel like there isn't anyone like me represented at the moment. Like, I don't see anyone play a lead role that is my shape, my size, my look, me being Latina, but not making the whole film about being Latina and being plus size. I feel like as a plus size woman, you people automatically, it's like every show I see, it's about them being plus size. You don't really see shows or a film where the lead woman is plus size and they don't talk about it. Like, it's not a thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's very, I feel like they always think that women who are plus size walk around just hating themselves on a regular, and that's not true, and it's not, and there's a good percentage of us that don't, and so I don't see that represented, and I kind of use myself as a vessel sometimes, if I feel like I'm right for my own project, to be the actor in it and be that, representation. But besides that, I think we're slowly getting there. It has gotten a lot better. Is it at the caliber nowadays of what it could be? No, not yet, because the leads of films and TV are still looking a certain way. But, we're slowly but surely, there's noticing that audiences want to see themselves on TV, and not everyone looks like a model,
Yeah, no, Adrienne, I really want to echo that, because that's my biggest problem with the industry is not only yes, diversity is important, but body diversity is super important to me, because yeah, sure, great. You have a bunch of diversity in films, but they're all the same size.
They're all tiny people.
They're all tiny people. And, the trope of like a great example right now is Bridgerton. So Bridgerton has a lot of great diversity in it. But then here we are, we have a really great character and she's the heavier set girl. And here's this trope of like, she's pining after a guy that clearly wants the thinner, skinnier person.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Really, really tired of seeing that, because it would be great and transformative to not only have a diverse cast, which Bridgerton does, but that maybe it centers around the girl that's not a size 0, that is about the guy because especially back then, being plus size or being heavier was considered beautiful,
right,
and rich, and it established your
rich,
and rich. And if you're gonna do a show based back then, why is the thin, pretty one getting the guy? Why isn't it the curvier one getting the guy? That would be more historically accurate.
And that's the problem. I mean, I think that it's hard because, everyone has gotten so used to a certain look. But also networks and studios will argue that the data, they follow the data. So they write shows nowadays, which is so hard to be a creator of any kind now, because I feel like back then, my mom and I and my husband, we were all talking about how movies in the 90s seemed to be so much more engaging, but the stories in the 90s were so much more interesting and creative. And I was like, well, it's because they probably didn't have a billion people giving them notes and trying to fit a mold because of the data. I think people were a little bit more free. I mean, maybe I'm wrong about that, but I feel like now, studios are trying to follow data and data information when they don't realize that if they put something new out there, then the data changes. You know what I mean? So it's not about data. It's just about representation and creativity and storytelling. And when you put a show that no one has ever seen before, even though it's not in the data that it's popular, it could be popular. So why not do it? Meaning, if you have a whole bunch of people in different shapes and sizes, not all looking like models, I think I think people would be interested in watching stories that have interesting people as opposed to just one type of person all the time,
Right. And I think there also could be a case study too about like you're also creating more eating disorders if you're only if you're only drawing, for instance, if we go with cartoons, if you're only drawing a certain type of body and they're the heroine and they're the one that gets to be the hero, or they get to be the one with the guy, or they get to be the one with the great job, and you never show any body diversity of anybody with hips, for instance, that gets to be the hero, that gets to be the one with the guy, that gets to be the one that's the boss, then you're creating this illusion to young females that, hey, you have to look like this person in order to be either financially successful, successful in a career, or successful in a marriage.
Or loved, period. Like loved in general. Like you have to look a certain way in order to find that. And that's so sad because I grew up thinking that as a kid. I grew up I've always been plus size. So it wasn't like I was skinny and then plus size. I've always been this way. So, it was hard for me as an actor to finally, well, one, TV and film at the time didn't want anyone that looked like me, and that was a hard thing. And then finally I went, F it. I'm going to try the TV and film route, see what happens. And the moment I made that decision, I got cast in this, indie film with Naomi Watts, and I was her a supporting character and her co-worker friend, and all of a sudden I was on set with Naomi Watts, and when everyone told me I had to be a size 0 in order to even be considered for TV and film, and here I was being, heavy set lady acting alongside Naomi Watts, and I think you kind of, the industry unfortunately had put it in my head that at one point I just wasn't the right look, and that was always what I was told growing up, was I wasn't thin enough, I would never really make it unless I lost a ton of weight and all these kind of things. But when I finally was like, I'm not going to listen to them anymore. I gotta try. And you get to a point where you have to believe in yourself. It took a while for me to believe in myself after being told the opposite. And so, and once I did, it became like a domino effect. Things started finally connecting in my life in all the, in every aspect of my life, not only as an actor and a filmmaker and whatever, but even personally. So, again, it's just the representation is so important in the development of children, period. It's just trying to make things positive. Yes, people like to say, oh, we would just love to see you healthy. I love the word healthy. It's just a funny word. They love using that for plus size people. They're like, oh, well, you look so healthy now. When a plus size person loses weight, they like to use healthy. And I'm always just like, well, I was healthy before. It's just I lost a little bit of weight. It's a tricky world, but now I see a lot more body positivity, and there is people that are really doing a great job pioneering it, like Lizzo, for example, Ashley Graham. These love, at least. Well, I'm talking in the woman world. I feel like there's actually a new breakthrough for men now, where they're doing body positivity for men and plus size men, which is fantastic. That's kind of a new movement that's coming on, which I think is super important.
Like the dad bod,
yeah, and I love it. I think, why? What's the problem with it? I think that's the thing is, if we put a positive spin on anything, on everything. It would just be such a nicer world, wouldn't it?
Definitely. Adrienne, you're so amazing for so many reasons. Like, I think you're an inspiration in so many different avenues. And I have to ask, what do you have coming up? Like, what's next in the horizon for you? What do you got in the pipeline for 2021?
Oh, well, girl, I hope 2021 turns around, and we can continue creating and continue forward with the projects that we were planning on making. But right now we're focusing on the feature that we're going to be shooting and starting to shoot in the end of February. And we've already started talking about other projects that might be more financially attainable. That's another thing too, because not everyone wants to invest in things anymore, and you kind of have to alter what it is that you were about to create and have the funding for, and no longer have the funding for. So and understandably so. So we started talking about other projects as well. And as an actor, my manager is concentrating, and I'm concentrating on a certain tier of roles now, because after a while, you as an actor do like the under fives, and then you do the co-stars, and then you're the day player and things like that. But then after a while, you have enough of those. You kind of have to, and it's hard, especially now when you almost want to take anything. But you have to kind of stand your ground, believe in yourself, and go, no, I'm ready to do bigger stuff. I'm ready to do guest star and reoccurring and heavy recurring and leads and supporting and all these fun stuff. So that's kind of what we're concentrating on. And again, it's hard because I'm almost like, just submit me for the under 5. I don't care anymore, But at the same time, it's, you work so hard for so many years. I mean, I've been acting since I was 3 and professionally since I was 10. So, you do so much for so many years. Eventually, you have to know your worth. You know what I mean? And want more for yourself. So that's kind of what my concentration is this year. But yeah.
Wow.
You get it.
You get it.
You don't
mic drop.
You don't accept anything but recurring, okay?
Yeah.
Got this. We're here for it. We're here for it. So where can people find you on social?
Yes, social. We don't mean your phone number and your email address.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to give those away.
Address. We don't want
Yeah, I'm afraid to give those away. My social media. My Instagram is my name, so it's just Adrienne Lovette, or at Adrienne Lovette. My Twitter is AF Lovette. And yeah.
There I had.
No, it was good. It was good. I liked it.
And my Facebook is, I think when you search me, it's like the Adrienne Lovette or something like that. I know this is so not helpful, but Facebook I'm more, I would say Instagram is probably like the best way to follow me, I think. But Instagram, Twitter, I'm very slow at. I feel like, again, I can only concentrate on social media so much. So you kind of choose what you can handle. And Twitter, I'm on there, but I'm more on Instagram, if anything.
I think we should change it to Love It AF.
Yeah, right.
We're gonna just start making hashtag Love It AF shirts.
Right.
Adrienne, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We're so grateful to have you on. As usual, you're such an amazing person to know. We're lucky to be friends with you, even off the mic.
Well, I feel the same about you, ladies. You guys are such an inspiration. You're always creating yourselves. So I could say all the same things about you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we just try to keep annoying each other via media creation. It's good. At least we try to throw it out there so everyone else can be entertained. So thanks for being part of our journey. But yeah, this has been Jordan Elizabeth Gelber and
Victoria Sharibinit
with Content and Consequences. See you next time.